Benjamin Franklin once said, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten." The fact is, quality matters. Join us as we make quality fun, interesting, and accessible to companies of all levels. Quality Matters is a must-listen for all things quality. Listen in, ask questions, and get back to doing what matters most. Quality Matters, brought to you by Texas Quality Assurance, where quality management gets simplified.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Quality Matters podcast. I am Kyle Chambers with Texas Quality Assurance, and we are again today joined here by Caleb Adcock. And Caleb, you've got kind of a fun idea for today's episode.
So everybody's heard of the Stanley Cup, and I'm not talking about the Stanley Cup. I'm talking about Stanley Cups.
You know, when it first came out, I thought that this was like intentionally some kind of a joke against like hockey.
Yeah, I kind of
thought
did.
This like some hockey thing. I had no idea for a long time. But
I think that shows how cheesy we are that we thought that was the case. But
okay, so what is it about this Stanley Cup? Like, why are we talking about it? It's just a cup that's apparently like expensive.
yeah, so it's no longer a cup. It's now an accessory. Everybody knows that. But how?
No one.
Yeah, so people are probably asking, how does this talk about quality? And so one of the things that I wanted to touch on, and I've had kind of in my head recently, is the perception of quality.
Okay.
And you know, the cups have come from. The joke is my father-in-law still has his original green Stanley Cup from the 70s that he took to work. You know, and what all these construction workers would be thinking now, seeing all these pastel colors and everybody carrying around these Stanley Cups. So
yeah.
And one of the things that I've kind of seen is, you know, just you see the cups, I don't know, you know, they've kind of reinvented themselves and they've added a few features, but essentially it's the same technology. You know, it's the insulated cup and the steel and
wait, this is going to show how little I know about any of this. So like Stanley, this isn't new.
No, 1913. Yeah.
Oh, okay. See, this is how I thought this was like a new thing. I thought they were coming in trying to like outdo everyone else.
So here is the Stanley Cup. They proudly say, and that's terrible camera, but made since 1913.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, you see these and you're like, well, what's changed? Why the big push? Why why is Stanley the manly now, I guess you could say. And when it's essentially the same, you know, and I think that one of the things is it's the perception of quality. And I'm not saying that they're not quality, but people see these things. And I think that they even had a couple videos of I think there's a lady, and we'll touch on this in a minute, but like there was a lady that had her car catch on fire and the Stanley Cup survived and the ice was still in there, apparently, if I'm remembering right. So that video went viral. Yeah. So I just wanted to talk a little bit today about how, you know, companies can use the perception of quality to really market their brands. You know, there's something to be said for the packaging and the way something looks. And then when people see it, they instantly think, oh, that looks good. Or, you know, that's good quality, rather than not packaging your product or not, you know, marketing your product correctly and having it come off, even though it does its job perfectly and it's you know, good price, but it just doesn't look good. So that's kind of how I wanted to tie in today.
No, it's a good point. Okay, so very different example here, but you know me, I'm a little screwball with my examples sometimes. You know, we moved out to the country a couple years ago, which means I'm constantly having to buy new tools that I have never used and do things I've never done. Like I've done trainings on safety for grinders, but I've never actually owned an angle grinder myself. And so, you know, I had to go buy one. And, you know, initially I was like, okay, well, I want to make certain I get something good. And so I did the research, found what I needed, course, I didn't check to make sure that I had enough air capacity for my air compressor. So that was a lot of fun. But I found a really good grinder because I wasn't really sure what the quality was or wasn't. And so finally, I just said, screw it, went to Harbor Freight and found something, a cheap little electric one that works just fine and dandy. But let me tell you, it don't look nearly as nice as the $300 one that I can't even use.
Yeah.
It's so hard to know what's
so
not.
I guess the point there is, had you not done your research and, found the one you want based off of reviews and all, let's say you just went to the store and you looked at that one, would you have picked that one versus the other one? I might have thought to myself, well, I better spend the $300 on one because these look like, these don't look very good.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I don't know. I think I just got so disgusted with, I've spent a lot of time trying to buy what is supposed to be the good products for everything.
Oh, yeah.
And in the end, I think I really just want to, I'm a real tactile person, I guess. So I just want to put my hands on it. I want to hold it. I want to feel it. I want to see how rugged does it actually feel. But that's a little different. But you don't really always get that option.
Nope.
Now, have you ever, before I guess maybe we go too far into the Stanley Cup stuff, or maybe you've got a ton of questions here that maybe we can go through, but is you ever bought something that you thought, oh my gosh, this looks fantastic. This looks like everything I want. The marketing is great. The packaging is great. And then it's absolute dookie.
Yeah. Multiple times. I'm trying to remember something off the top of my head, and it's terrible that I didn't come up with an example beforehand. But yeah, I know, you go to the store or, you pick the prettiest one because maybe you're in a hurry or maybe this was before the time where we could hop on our phone and look into something. I used to actually have this theory that that stores would block off internet access. So you couldn't see how bad the reviews are. But no, I don't think that's the case. But man, my internet never works in the store. But yeah, there's definitely our eyes tend to go toward what's the prettiest, and I think that's kind of the perception versus reality issue of quality. So could you take a look at your brand? Could you take a look at your product and be like, what do my customers think of when what is their first impression?
Yeah.
Or could I pay a little bit more attention to paint or you've seen, for example, something that's manufactured, it's a whole different product when they throw a coat of paint on it, versus what you saw on the shop floor. It's got grind marks got blemishes all over it and all kinds. And then you throw some sandblast or put some paint on it. You're like, holy cow. Some manufacturers never even see that product. And that's,
we had worked at the turbine shop before. For anyone listening, it was I used to work for a shop that repaired industrial gas and steam turbines. In any case, a lot of these turbine components are on what they call the combustion section of the turbine, and that's just what it sounds like. That's the part where everything starts to burn. Oops, don't want to hit the mic there. So anything's in the combustion section, really starts to look pretty ugly pretty quickly right after that. Everything immediately following that combustion section, it just gets real ugly real quick. And then there are these static vanes that are in there that kind of reconfigure the airflow. In any case, they don't stay shiny very long, right? Some of these components aren't coated, and they're just not supposed to be shiny. They're pretty much bare metal. And it's we don't care if it's shiny or not. It has no impact on it. But with this one customer, when he opened the box, he wanted to see shiny parts that were repaired. Had no practical benefit, no nothing at all. He just wanted to see shiny parts. So we found some old arbitrary mill spec for I can't even remember the details anymore, too long ago, but we found this mill spec, what we would blast these to get a certain sheen that he liked, and we called it our shiny spec. It's because it's what he wanted. But it really does bring the idea of quality into question. I mean, is quality nothing but its ability to do the job? Is it the perception and how it makes you feel? Is it Or you could have totally unexpected, I think this might be where you were going, like totally unexpected perception of your product. Like someone may think because of the packaging, it's going to be awesome for this, but it really sucks at it because that's not what you made it for.
Yeah.
It's so difficult.
So the whole evolution is it went from, this ugly, I don't want to say ugly, but this green thermos that said Stanley on it, and everybody used it because they knew it because their buddy had it and his soup was hot at lunchtime, and so that it kind of went around. And I think people used for camping and stuff like that. It went from that to what you see now all over your dinner table. I swear we had Thanksgiving. I said, you guys got to move these cups. Because I have a large family, couldn't even put the food on the table because there's 9 Stanley cups. Like what? Anyway,
oh my gosh,
there's a story behind that, and I was like, I'm thinking to myself, where did this come from? Like, what? Why does everybody have Stanley? Well, okay, so mostly females. Why do females have these Stanley cups now? How did it go from men on a construction site to females, everywhere?
Mm-hmm.
And I looked it up, and apparently the marketer behind Crocs is the same guy that they hired for Stanley Cup. And I said, well, that makes sense. Yeah. Apparently this guy is the best in the world at making stuff popular, because who would have thought Crocs and, old Stanley Cups would be the thing. I think his name is Terrence Riley. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah.
So Crocs, you talking about like the ugly shoe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you know that Crocs first appeared on Idiocracy? I did know Crocs because they were the most stupid looking shoe you could find.
Yeah, they said, give me the goofiest looking shoe that nobody would, or that they would wear in that period or time, and yep, caught on.
Oh man. Okay. So, do you see anything with Stanley with their advertising that would, I don't know, indicate problems with quality? Like, are they saying it'll do something different than it does? I guess it really.
I wonder if people care. Like, to be honest, I mean, I might be getting in some trouble here, but I don't know. I don't know that I see people drinking a lot out of their Stanley cups.
Okay.
But yeah, I think, like I said earlier, that they had that video where, the person had their car catch on fire. So it's like that video, I think, went viral on probably TikTok or something like that. And that's been a really big push of their marketing campaign, is these influencers, using and talking about how good these cups are. And, that's the kind of cognitive biases of, everybody's using it and everybody thinks they're good. And then before you know it, the things are selling themselves. I mean, that's kind of where you want to be as a manufacturer. I mean, not kind of, that is where you want to be.
I thought about with all that. I honestly, I didn't even know the Stanley Cup had been around for a while. I'm just so out of touch with a lot of things.
To be honest, I didn't either.
But what really impressed me though is they got freaking everyone in the world talking about a cup. It's a cup. Everyone, we're doing a whole damn podcast episode about cup. But I kind of wonder if there aren't some fun lessons to be learned for when we're trying to pitch something, the new program at work, a new way of doing things. Because you've been in shops before where they have the banners plastered all over. They have the wall, 0 accidents, 0 injuries, 0 defects, 100% customer satisfaction.
I think that
you market it that way.
Yeah, I mean, you're marketing your internal culture in that aspect. When you go into a shop and you see even the cleanliness of the shop, you bring a customer in to show, what your capabilities are at a potential sale. And the customer's looking around, there's trash on the floor. There's grinding shavings or, welts, just swear.
That's the expectation of what else you're going to receive.
Yep, for sure.
And with the Stanley Cup, look, hold your cup up again real quick.
Yeah.
Now, anyone listening, obviously you can't see it, but hey, you should go check out our YouTube channel and subscribe. It looks like a nice cup. Nothing about it looks cheap. The plastic on top is like the only thing on it where I'd be like, okay, maybe, but that's still thick plastic. Like, that's a damn looking good cup, I gotta say.
Yeah.
I just looking at it, I would have the expectation that it would be good quality. I'd be really ticked off if I found out that's just little 1/8-inch thick sheet metal and nothing else on the inside of it.
Yep.
Like, I don't have that expectation looking at it at all. And I wonder how often, like, I'm thinking about our software right now. Like, I want to go back to my webpage now and I'm going to go to, take a look at it and be like, when someone looks at this, what's the expectation they get?
Yep.
Does that match what we're delivering?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, it's a big consideration that maybe, and guys especially, might not think about. You got a shop full of, not saying only guys can be welders, but the demographics are, pretty much there. Fabricators tend to be males, and males oftentimes don't put a lot of thought into the details, or, the cosmetic details, I should say.
Hey, you can make fun of for it.
Yeah.
You go up on the job site with a little sparkly polka dotted cup.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of what I just wanted to, the perception versus reality. Like, if you're putting out a product, you need to make sure that the perception of your product matches the quality.
Oh, I got a great example here. So I used to do this example with pencils, but I'll talk about pencils here. But you're talking about perception, because that really is the first part of quality, because you have to set that customer expectation. I mean, it really is customer expectation. I've got here again. If you're listening online, you can't see, but I got a little box of chalk here. Now, it doesn't show me the chalk pieces, but it does kind of imply the chalk pieces with what's on here. And it shows that they're all flat on the top. So one would expect that all my chalk pieces would be flat on the top. And they are. But what if you open this box? Just a silly question. You open this box full of pieces of chalk, and they've all rounded off on the top and a little bit differently. You almost wonder if they've been used before. Maybe the edges are a little jagged.
Yep.
You'd look at that and think, no, the box clearly shows chalk flat tops. That's what I want. That's what I want right there. I wouldn't think this was quality after I opened it. I might think it before I opened it, and I wouldn't think it after.
Yep. Well, and that chalk could be the longest lasting, best applicable piece of chalk in the world. But as soon as you see those, edges that aren't standard, you're thinking to yourself, well, this product's no good.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Because I've used pieces before where, start breaking apart on everything. And again, I'm a real tactile person, so I've got a couple of chalkboards around here. Sometimes that, sounds weird, but it helps me think a little bit better if I can feel the chalk grinding as I work. So I guess kind of, what do you think would spur this sudden change in Stanley? Do you think they've changed the quality of their cup, or just the appearance and the marketing?
That's originally kind of what drew me to this. So I will say, because I'm thinking to myself, is this all marketing? Did they actually change the cup? And yes, they redesigned the cup. One of the things you'll notice, and the people online, I'll just have to describe this, is it has this tapered end at the bottom.
Yes.
The old cups were just straight tubes. They were green. They said Stanley on them. And one of the reasons, and we were talking about this before the podcast started, I didn't know about this. Was, I don't know, a year or so back, 2 years, maybe year and a half. I don't know. We were on our way back from a road trip. And my wife's like, "Can you stop? I got to meet somebody." And I said, "Well, what?" She's like, "I bought something on Facebook." I'm like, "Okay, well, all right, sure. What is it?" And she's like, "It's a cup." I was like, "You bought a cup on Facebook?" I mean, yeah. And I'm like, she's always been into the drinking cups, she's always trying to find the perfect one, and she likes having variety, and she's,
is she one of the ice fanatics? Like, she knows, like, not only she likes the Sonic ice, but she knows which Sonic has the best Sonic ice.
Well, probably more so water, if there's any content, or if there's any flavoring in that water, nope. But so we stop, and she's like, "Look, babe, this will fit in the cup holder," because I'm used to her massive jug of water bouncing all around the cars I'm driving around. I got this little thing next to me, like a little place where you can set things, and it's rolling around. So that's, that's one of the features they added, was like, this is now a massive 40-ounce cup that will fit in your cup holder. So yes, they have modernized, but has the technology changed much? I don't think so. I think that just shows the importance of figuring out a marketing strategy and making sure that your product is as good as it is, or it looks as good as it is.
And it's something honest. I can't say I don't think about, because small business owner, if you like to eat, you have to think about these things. But it's still hard to think about. It's like, that really is a huge part of whatever you do, is how it's perceived. And then do you deliver on what that perception was? The moment you don't deliver on that perception, you lose.
Yeah,
that's it. And so it sounds like they're able to deliver on it, but none of the technology changed. So it's just funny that, man, they could have been sitting, obviously they are reaping the benefits of the gold mine right now, but they could have been sitting on a gold mine for God knows how long.
Yeah,
I just wonder how many other of our customers that we work with, or just folks listening to podcasts, like how many of us are sitting on a gold mine and have an idea, if we could just tweak it one or two small ways, like just add the taper bottom, get the right marketing campaign. I know the right marketing campaign thing's still tough, but
yeah, that's a whole other, I was about to say podcast. That's a whole other, I don't know, series of podcasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just more about picking a focus or picking a demographic and, driving it home. And once you build that brand, then you have people that are willing to stick with it, until the next thing comes along. But there's just a whole stream of lessons to be learned. And that the Terrence Riley, I was blown away to find out that the same guy, I was like, how could somebody be that good at marketing?
Jeez.
Like Crocs and Stanley cups.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, the Crocs thing blows me away, because I just can't, whatever. I'm probably going to get hate mail over this, but I can't even stand to look at those things. I tried putting them on once. I'm like, oh gosh, no. Either let me be barefoot or not. I don't like feeling like a boat.
Well, I mean, I think I don't think people care, people know they're not the most, I hate to say ugly, but they're pretty ugly. I mean, and you've had the shoes like the Ugg boots, who literally, have Ugg in the name. I don't know if it's supposed to go for ugly, but people knew that those things weren't attractive, or at least I think they knew that. And it's not like they were like, oh, don't make fun of my cool shoes. These are the cool, it was more like, oh, I like these shoes. They're kind of cheap. They're comfortable. I get to put these little pins on them and stuff. It's just, it's crazy.
The way people interact with products is, it's just not the way I expect they would sometimes. But I guess that's why I'm a IT guy and quality guy, and I'm just about as hardcore of a geek as you can get in a lot of ways. So maybe I have a hard time seeing these things.
Yeah, no, it definitely takes a different perspective. And like you just said with the software, if you're involved with it on a day-to-day basis, you have to get an outside opinion.
Yeah.
You have to have somebody come in and be like, look, as somebody that's not involved in the manufacturing process of this, what do you think? Like what crosses your mind when you see this product? Does quality cross your mind? Or, what's your perception? So you have to get an outside opinion.
That's a good point. So I'm thinking about, so many of our customers, and I used to do it, myself when I was quality manager, is every time we ship something, man, we're taking pictures of it. We're taking pictures. Because you want to make sure you document the condition of it before it left, because you can't control what the hotshot does or what the delivery company does or whatever, or what the guys on the other end unloading the product. And so you always take pictures from a CYA standpoint, but just step back and look at it.
Yeah.
Just imagine the CEO of the company happens to be walking around as this product's being unloaded. Is he going to look at this and go, did we get that? Okay, good. I like it. Are you going to get that reaction from it?
Yeah.
The product might be stored totally secure. I think about we used to make crates for a lot of these turbine parts, and our shipping and receiving guy, he did a damn good job. They were sturdy. They were secure. Those parts weren't moving, but ugly.
Yeah.
Like you look at it and it looks like hodgepodge mix mash, but it's because these parts are weird angles, you know. And so, and I remember thinking like, that just looked weird. Don't look right.
Yeah. Well, and for people who build larger things that are, shipped, stuff like that, if somebody sees your part on a trailer or, thinking about oil field type stuff, like, and it's got your company name on it, what are they going to think about that part?
Yeah.
That could be some advertising. Or let's say you ship your part, you use a carrier, freight carrier, whatever. What if you put your sign on there, that make sure it's secured properly, obviously, but what if you put your company sign on that? That's free advertising. It's being shipped.
Yeah.
Just those types of deals, like what,
Well, and like, get me kind of outside perspective on things. Like it really is something like that's probably something more of us should engage in more frequently, I guess. Then the question is, so I'm thinking about it for myself, but as a small business owner, but I know a lot of other small business owners listen to the podcast. Let's just look at us. Let's just pick on us for a minute. So we've got our software, it's the product we sell, right? Who would we go to outside of hiring a marketing company? Like, who would you think we'd want to holler at? Say, hey, you use the software, you see the website. Where do you see that we're not right? You see our marketing material, you see how we present this.
Yep.
Who would be a good person to take a look at it and say, hey, like, will we go to one of our customers? Will we maybe go to, like, who would you go to? What questions might you ask?
Yeah. And that's definitely, that's a major part of quality is customer feedback.
It is.
Maybe though, that's not something that people are considering. You may be asking, hey, does it work good? Are you happy? But you might need to go a step further and be like, do we fulfill, what we what we hold ourselves out as?
This is really, honestly, man, I'm glad you brought this up. Like, I won't lie, when you want to talk about Stanley Cups, I'm like, really, dude? Like, I'm going to trust you. I'll go with it. I'm glad I did. Because this is something honest to God, I hadn't thought about this very much before. Like, about the most in-depth for quality I ever look or care is looking on the customer's website. Are they making an explicit claim on the website that their certification body would say, no, you can't do that? But that's really about as deep into it as I go. And I'm not saying I want to take a look at it with an eye of a marketer, but it's a different way of thinking about customer feedback. Like, I've never considered asking customer feedback anything related to what their perception of what we would provide was versus what we did provide. That word perception. And I think that actually is important, and that can be really valuable feedback for the rest of the company. Now, while the marketing side isn't necessarily part of that scope for 9001 or Q1, it sure can be tied in a lot. Give me some stuff to think about.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely, and going back to that perception versus the reality, especially if you have a lengthy sell process, maybe you're talking and you've had multiple conversations, hours long's worth of discussion or something like that before the customer even gets to try your product. If they don't get what they had in their head, it's going to stop immediately, and it's going to leave a bad taste. And like, so you have to make sure that the perception matches the reality, especially if you're going to be dealing with the customers that are using your products on a regular basis.
Set the tone for a long time. It really set the tone for a long time. And I think everyone's got certain customers that we enjoy working with most and don't enjoy working with sometimes. We all know how it goes. And we all like to blame it and say, oh, that customer is just difficult. But maybe we set the wrong expectations up front.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I think the Stanley Cup thing's kind of a neat thing. Like, it's that's fun that, really technology-wise hasn't changed. It's a couple of small features, but nothing their marketing is incorrect. And it sounds like what is being marketed right now is not how good the cup is. I don't think I've actually, any of the advertising I've seen for it, I don't think it's been how good the cup is. I don't think they once tell me about the quality of the cup. They just put it out there like, this cup is now a status symbol.
Yep.
And they're selling you a status symbol that is also useful.
Yeah. And I think they've upheld their quality, since 1913. Obviously, you got to do something right to be around that long. But all it took was that little push, a different different lens or a different eye on something, and the next thing you know, you got the most popular product in the world.
That's pretty cool.
So you said we had a question this week.
Oh, yes. Let me pull that up real quick. So I get these not terribly often. Usually just kind of respond to them. Sorry, I should have had this. I had it ready, but then I changed something. Oh, come on. Where'd it go? Well, now I can't find the email I had. Give me just a moment. Here we go. All right. So I won't say the name here because I'm not asking them if I can do it yet. But they had a good question. This is kind of following up on our last podcast episode a little bit, talking about calibration. So, and I think this is, I want to share this because I think this is the situation that a lot of folks probably do run into. And I know I used to run into to a similar degree. So again, not sharing the company name here, that, not asking if I can do that yet. So, is when we take a gauge off the production floor to send it to the calibration company, it's replaced with a calibrated gauge and the parts verified with a replacement gauge for the swap. Okay. When we take the gauge off the lab shelf for calibration, there's no parts to verify, right? So often by the time we know about the failed gauge, the parts have already shipped to the customer. So this is kind of the common thing. It's like you're using a gauge, you identify it's bad, but then you don't know all the 50 different products that were used when it was bad. When did this gauge go bad? So they said here, we don't have any customer complaints due to it being out of calibration. They're looking for a more proactive solution to show confidence in the shipped product. She said that she's working, working with accuracy ratio. Typically, the go-no-go gauges are still 10 times more accurate than the ranges they measure when the calibration fails. And the variable gauges like calipers, bore gauges can be less than 1 times more accurate. So you're kind of not sure where to go. They've got about 4,000 gauges every week that they're sending out. Like, this is a huge workload. So this is kind of a tough question. We might want to do like a whole podcast episode on something like this. But the simplest thing that I have done, now this was in a shop that did not have nearly that many gauges. We had several hundred, but not many thousands. We had a spot check process for those variable gauges. Have you ever had a spot check system? I know you did the CWI stuff. I guess you probably weren't too involved on the dimensional inspection.
Yeah, I've done some machining too. Yeah.
And so what we did is we set up a master set of gauge blocks in the production in the office, and then we had another set out on the shop floor that we just kept covered with a like a tarp or something. And what the folks were supposed to do is when they grabbed that gauge, if they grabbed it from the shop floor, they would do the spot check on the shop floor. If they grabbed it from the lab or the office, they do the spot check in the office because there might be a 30 or 40 degree temperature difference.
Yeah.
In the spot check, we trained everyone on how to do the spot check. We had everyone do a spot check for us. And eventually this just became part of their like new employee onboarding training and whatnot. Everyone had to do a spot check. So you had to prove to me that you can check your gauge is accurate. If your gauge is off, you report it right then, turn it in, and move. We also required that they do the spot check only for documented inspections. And I say only for documented inspection because, you've been a welder. How many times during your table you checking something just to check it?
Yeah.
Like 1,000 times over. But
yeah.
Are you making... You're not making just final decisions on that. You're just working it. Check, is that where I want? Yes, where I want. Check, yeah, check. But those aren't your final documented inspections that we're making pass-fail decisions on. So once it's a documented inspection or a go-no-go situation, well, then we do it with the device that we did a spot check on. So maybe a spot check process would be good here. And so it says, 4,000 devices every week that they're sending out. Like, this is an enormous volume of devices. The spot check process may not be practical as a control here, although I would never argue against a spot check. Like that gun, if I'm going to use a gauge, I want to check it before I use it. But what are your thoughts? You got any other suggestions on what they could do here? Because
I mean, that is a tough question. Yeah. And I think it really just, it's going to take some reflection. I'm not trying to like dodge the question, but like, I think that's where the importance of like inspection test plans come in, because you go through these, you talk about go, no go situations and critical hold points and that kind of thing. Like you identify spots of like, okay, if this is wrong, it's catastrophic. We're moving forward until we're absolutely sure. And I think the question had a little bit to do with like, okay, well, what if the way that we check that we make sure it's catastrophic goes bad, and then we realize that? I mean, maybe it wasn't to that level, but if one of your measuring tools is, you come to find out, is not accurate due to whatever reason, wear and tear, or maybe it wasn't calibrated properly, that's where, again, an inspection test plan, like, do you document which measuring tools you use for each inspection?
Correct.
Because if it's not critical,
you could have it so that, let's say we did have, and assume if they've got this many gauges and stuff, there are certain measurements that really are critical.
Yeah.
You could have a separate set of gauges that are used for that. Like this inspection area, this particular inspection, we're not using the tool that you've got at your toolbox. Screw that. You're using the specific set of tools for it.
And it's going to be documented that this set of tools was used for this inspection. That way, if something does happen, we can say, okay, this is what the product's checked. We need you guys to take a look, or we'll come out and take a look. We can.
And she talked about the accuracy difference there. So what do you think about this? Is, let's say that you get a gauge back. We'll just say it's a caliper, just to keep life simple. And caliper's off by 100th, but you've got a tolerance of 300ths. I don't know. I'm just using simple, basic, loose numbers here, right? So you got to be plus or minus 300ths, but the caliper was off by 200ths, and the caliper was made to be plus or minus 1. So it's definitely out of calibration, but it's still within your tolerance. So then you have to make the decision. And I think these folks are in the automotive industry, so they have some very specific requirements for notification for failed devices.
Yeah.
But you could issue a non-conformance report stating this device was off by this much, and none of the measurements that it takes ever require that high of a tolerance. So I think with this many devices, you probably would have to start to really be careful about which devices get used in which areas. Man, that's a tough one. This might be a little more fun to talk about in detail.
Yeah. Well, so another thing is that kind of reminded me of as an inspector, a lot of my job, and this is kind of some people like don't understand, is like, I'm not here to tell you what to do if something's bad. I'm just here to tell you it's bad. Like, it's not my decision on what, unless you've got predefined repair procedures and stuff like that. It's not my decision to be like, oh, this is how you need to fix it. I mean, there's some welding stuff you could call on the spot, but for the most part, it's a luxury to be able, or not a luxury. It's a good thing to be able to be like, no, you got to go ask an engineer. Like, that's an engineering question, and engineering encompasses quality. But if you're talking about on an inspector level, they shouldn't be making those types of decisions to where it's like, do I use my judgment on tolerances? Like, I think that's an engineering question.
Yeah. So this would definitely, I think, we're trying to solve a big problem in 5 minutes. But definitely spot check, implementation of a spot check process would be helpful here. But I think that's helpful.
Yeah.
That really teaches guys on the, man, I used to hate it too. Like, they scribe with the same caliper. They just spent half their paycheck on it, the Snap-on truck. I'm like, why are you scribing with this? Right. But it really did teach our welders to take better care of their tools when they had to do the spot check their own stuff and realize that they screwed up their own tool. Really easy to do. The last guy did it. So spot check process, I think it'd probably be good to identify really which one of these measurements are critical. Kind of like we do with the corrective action. So similar process. If you have a customer complaint, our recommendation, generally speaking, document a customer complaint with a non-conformance report, and is to be strongly considered for issuance of a CAPA. If you don't issue a CAPA, justify why you didn't. It might need to be something similar here of, cool, we had a gauge fail. Every gauge failure is automatic, consideration for what other parts were bad, when did this go wrong, so on and so forth. That spot check, though, would prevent you from having to go very far back. Yes. You did a spot check today. You did a spot check. You know the last time it was good.
Yep. That's a good point, too.
Spot check, identify critical points, issue a non-conformance report, and either say, hey, we have to go back and check all of these other parts, or we can say, no, we have confidence because of XYZ processes and accuracy, and you can justify why it's good.
Yeah. I didn't even think about it that way of using that periodic check as like, okay, we knew it was good this point, you know, so let's look at everything that shipped since that last check. I mean, that's a perfect way of handling that.
And as long as that guy's trained on how to do it, so okay, that could be a fun solution. Well, no, this has been a fun topic. This has been a real fun kind of topic to jump into. But yeah, I really like.
And of course, we'd love to hear any feedback for quality managers or other people that may have been, you know, in that position or something, how they handled it. So
yeah, no, let us know, because I've never had to deal with that many devices. I'm kind of like, I don't know. That's a little bit of a new world for me there. But no, this is fun. So no, Caleb, thanks, man, for bringing up the topic on the Stanley Cups. Like I say, this is something that I never would have picked, but this is really an eye-opening topic.
Does your product have the quality perception of, you know, how good the quality actually is? You know, are you marketing yourself good?
How many customer issues could you be having simply because your customer's perception of what and how you do things is different?
Yep.
So, really eye-opening topic. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Awesome. All right. Well, everyone, that is it for today's episode. So definitely thank you for sticking along and listening. If you have not yet, please be certain to like, subscribe, and share. I know we all say that on all of these channels, but like, it really does have an impact. It really helps us out. It does a lot for us. So if you appreciate what we're doing, subscribe, share, and if you have any questions, send them in. We'd love to address more of these questions on air. I would just answer them and send the responses back, but I think this might be something fun to do. So with that, you guys have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.